Have you ever wondered how you would handle less income with more expenditure? In short, you're always having a deficit on your budget. Hello good people, hope you're doing well. Welcome to yet another video. Today's video we're going to talk about how to deal with circumstances or your finances when your expenses are more than your income. Comment down below if you have ever found yourself in that situation. Before we start the video, if you have not subscribed, kindly subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you're notified every time we upload a new video. In today's video, we are going to talk about a few measures you can take to try and get back on track, or you can look for ways to just make adjustments accordingly to accommodate your current income. The first thing we're going to talk about is tracking your expenses. Have you ever asked yourself how much you spend in a day? And once you do that, for instance, if you look at your expenditure from yesterday, is everything required? And remember, we're not talking from a perspective of someone who has capacity. We're talking from a situation whereby your income is less than your expenditure. So the first thing for you is to be very conscious about your expenses. And one way of doing that is ensuring you're tracking your expenses. Comment down below if you track your expenses. Still on tracking your expenses. At the end of the month, if you have noted that your budget exceeds your income, sit down, look through the budget items that are straining your income. There's always a way that you can try and squeeze in. For instance, you can decide to substitute some of your food with other food items. You can decide to do away with, for instance, expensive meat and substitute with cereals which have the same nutritional value. I want to pose a second question. On this channel, we have always talked about planning your budget. Comment down below if you have been watching this channel and you are yet to come up with a budget. And if you're having any challenges, please reach out to us. We'll see how we can assist, do a basic budget. So you have now identified your expenses and you have identified which items that eat up. Let's actually call them big budget items on your budget. So after you have realized, what action are you going to take? The first thing is to start cutting on your expenses. How do you do this? We have said you're making a conscious decision of making your budget and reviewing your every other day expense. So you're very conscious about what you use your money for. For instance, maybe you have planned a budget of 5,000 every week for entertainment. By entertainment, it can be indoors or outdoors. Perhaps that is one of the budget items you can reduce. Remember, on this channel, we said you don't have to be mean to yourself, but you have to be very conscious of your budget. Maybe you're wondering how or where can you adjust. Maybe you're not even having such expenses as entertainment. So let's start from the basics. We all need a roof over our head. So in all instances, you have a house. So from our previous video, we give a breakdown of the various budget items in the house. Have you reviewed them and have you made the requisite adjustments? Okay, let's assume you have made the requisite adjustments and you have cut some expenses in the house, which have maybe just reduced your expenses by maybe a few thousands or maybe even hundreds, and you feel it has still not yet fitted into your budget. The next thing you can consider is, if you're on a mortgage, you can consider negotiating your interest rate to have a lesser interest, which thus will reduce the expenses on the housing. The other way you can reduce your housing expenses, perhaps you can consider cutting off some of the things that you have in the house that you can. For instance, in this house, we have reduced expenses on TV because we have internet, which we use for so many other things. So if you need to watch news, you can still go online and watch news. So that is one way you can reduce your expenses. Okay, perhaps you may say the amount is not even significant, because I think, for instance, our TV is about maybe 1,000, 2,000, or maybe less. I can't remember how much we used to pay. But then you see that like the amount is not significant to have an impact on your budget. So there's another way you can reduce your housing expenses. For instance, if you want to maintain the same standards or you want to continue living in the same estate, you can move into a smaller house. I almost said a bigger house. You can move into a smaller house, and that will cut on your rent expenses. That is, if you are renting. The same case can apply to someone who has a mortgage. If you're really straining on your mortgage, perhaps you can consider moving out of your house, rent it out, and get a house with a cheaper monthly rental expense. I don't know whether you're getting it. If, for instance, you're paying a mortgage of, say, even 100,000, and the house you're living in, you can get a tenant maybe for 100, 150. Perhaps you can consider renting it out and use the rent income to pay the mortgage. The money that you're straining from your income, you can then use it. If you're paying 100, then you can decide to move to a house of 50,000, because basically your house expense is 100,000. So if you cut it by half, you can move into a house of maybe 50,000, maybe 70,000, depending on how much adjustments that you need to make. But now, when you're taking such drastic decisions or drastic positions in terms of moving out, then there will be that aspect of you don't have to still stay in the same estate you're living in, because perhaps that estate is what is straining your pocket. You can actually decide to move into a cheaper estate. You don't have to move into a smaller house, but you can move into a cheaper house in another estate. Comment down below if you have ever considered this, or you have actually moved into a cheaper house, either in the same estate, that is maybe a smaller house, or you have moved into a cheaper house in another estate, of course the same size of the house. The next item, which actually is a big item on your budget, is food, or basically groceries. Once you have your list of the groceries that you consume in a month, you will be able to make a decision as to whether you can cut on them, or obviously you cannot stop eating. So what you may have to do when it comes to eating and food in general, you might have to cut the expenses on food by substituting some food. If maybe you're used to eating some certain type of food, you can maybe move or adjust to a cheaper, same nutritional value. Remember, the key word here is not the same type of food, but the same nutritional value. Yeah, so it's not a matter of you saying I'm coming from this type of food to this other type of food just for the sake of cutting cost. Look at the nutritional value of what you're eating right now and what you want to move to. That way, you will, of course, maintain your health, which by extension will not raise your medical bills or will not create medical bills. As we talk of cutting expenses, perhaps you don't want to cut expenses or you're totally not in a position to make the adjustments. Then that would mean you have to increase your income. What actions would warrant you to increase your income? Maybe, we have said a lot about cutting your expenses with the same income. What if, on the flip side, instead of cutting your expenses, you increase your income? You can have maybe the active and the passive income. That way, you will be able to try and balance out your expenses. It is not always about cutting costs. You can increase your income. Comment down below if you have ever found yourself in a situation whereby you have the option of either cutting your costs or increasing your income. You can share with us how you reduced your expenses and you were able to accommodate your budget, or you can share with us some tips of businesses or ways that you have used to grow your income instead of reducing your expenses. Comment down below. One thing I would like to mention is that when you're making any decision, it is important to engage the people around you so that they can also support you. For instance, if you want to cut costs, they have to be cost conscious to be able to cut the costs. If you want to increase the income, maybe you will be taking away some of their time. For instance, if you have children and now you have to work maybe 2 jobs, does that mean that now you have less time with your children? Or would you rather maybe have adjustments by reducing your expenses and spend more time with the people that you care for? Or you take an extra job, make more money, and at the expense of reducing the time that you spend with your loved ones? Comment down below if you have had to be in a situation whether you don't know which one to choose. I am recording this video in the first week of October, which happens to be Customer Service Week. I would like to appreciate each and every one of you for consuming our content. Please feel valued and thank you for always coming back to watch our videos. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you're new, kindly subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you're notified every time we upload a new video. If you're a returning viewer and subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. To the people who have joined the channel recently, thank you so much for considering us worthy of your subscription. Let us know the kind of topics you want us to talk about. Thank you so much for feedback in our previous video. So those videos that you requested for will be coming. Thank you so much for participating in our poll that we shared on our community tab. On a regular basis, we'll be sharing information on our community tab. Please check it out so that you also help us improve on what we are going to share with you. Remember, this information is not ours but yours, so we need to know what you want us to share with you. See you on our next one. Bye.